Okay, dear students, now we continue with the faith developmental theory. So for this faith, or we call it as spiritual development theory, you need to understand what is the meaning of spirituality first. So according to Synod, spirituality reflects the individual inner experience rather than what we can observe from the outward, or from the behavior or the customs. Yeah. So the concept of relationship uh, and the process of transcendence means that you have made connection with the uh, higher being, with God. So this is very essential for the spiritual development, for having the sense of connectedness with the our higher being. And spiritual development introduces a focus on the spiritual change. So maybe there's some sense of growth in terms of who you are, what you want to be, and transformation, change in uh, previous from being the bad into being the good person, and also growth in terms of uh, improving your improving your religious activities, or maturation in terms of perceiving certain faith that is spiritual. So spiritual development is likely a wellspring for the best of human life, like being generous, unity, sacrifice. Altruism means doing good, and holding to social justice. So as well as our darker side, so whatever that has happened, we have witnessed in the past, such as genocide, pembunuhan, terrorism, and slavery, it it contribute to a person's spiritual development. And through the most of 20th century, spiritual, or most often, we always make it synonymous with religion, religious activity. So this spiritual development was viewed to a stage theory, as according to Fowler. So Fowler is a theorist who developed a theory on the faith or spiritual. As in the other stage-based developmental theories, such as Piaget, such as moral development that you just listened to the lecture just now, Kohlberg. Yeah. So it is possible to accelerate the growth. That means there is improvement from first stage into second stage, or to impact. It means that the person's spiritual growth can goes down due to certain negative event, for example. Yeah. But the steps cannot be skipped. That means one step after the other, step 2, 3, and 4, and so on. So, faith development theory is developed by Fowler. Fowler is the theorist. He is a theologian, which means ahli agama, and also religious psychologist. Discuss spirituality as it relates to the Erickson's theory, to the Kohlberg's theory, based on the stages. So Fowler work on faith development suggests that faith development of the individual reflect the meaning making. So there's a growth, there's a change through this meaning making process in order to relate with what happened, and in which individuals seek to understand their own lives, the values, and the commitment that guide them, including for what next, what they need to do next in order to be a good religious person, in order to follow the right path, and so on. So his idea is centralized to the individual's understanding to himself or herself in relation to the others. Like I said, have the quality of transcendence is that you have to have the connection with the God, with the higher being, with the surrounding, with the people, with the other religious community. So it involves a relationship. And this commitment is very essential in the development of faith. So otherwise, it won't be considered as faith. Yeah, beriman. So Fowler described faith beyond just religious practice. So he tries to be more inclusive to non-religious things such as education, such as material things, maybe sports activities. So faith is more inclusive rather than just we look at the religion. Faith also includes a family connection and so on, to love. So uh, it underlies the formation of the beliefs, the values, and the meaning. It gives coherence and direction to the person's life, link them in shared trust and loyalties with the others, to the loved one, for example, to the family members, to the community which you belong to. And it grounds a personal stance and communal loyalties in the sense of relatedness to a larger frame of reference. So here we can see that what happens to the Palestine, all Muslim, not just Muslim, but all people in the world gather together to unify, to because the faith say that we need to provide justice. Yeah. So it also refers to the personal stance in the unitedness, and it enables people to face and deal with the challenges of the human life and death, relying on which has the quality of ultimacy in their lives. So, uh, if you look at the Palestinian people, so they believe that those we also all believe, the Muslim people believe that all those who died during the war, the attack, Israel attack, are granted with the Jannah, mati syahid. So that is also part of faith. Yeah. And faith involves the complex interplay in the factors of biological maturation. So like in the theory of cognitive development by Piaget, it also depends on the age, biological maturation, emotional and cognitive development, the psychosocial experience. So whatever that has happened in the past has taught us some things, and the role of religion and culture symbols, meaning and practice, which shape our stance, our values on certain things. So these are all considered as a faith. So there are several stages of faith. Uh, so the stage one belongs to the infancy for the primal or undifferentiated faith. So here the baby actually they develop trust to the parents, to their caregivers, because they trust them. They can hold their hands. The parents feed them. So the baby have the undifferentiated trust. Stage one is for the preschool and early school years. It is called as intuitive projective faith. So for the preschool kids, they tend to have vivid imagination and blind fantasy about and their understanding of faith. So they adopt the belief, religious belief and practice on their parents' belief. So without having critical examination. So if the parents ask them to recite dua before eating, then they will accept and recite the dua. So whatever the parents teach them, the caregiver, the guru taska teach them, they will follow because they are on the uh, uh, intuitive and projective. They just follow. And the stage two is the mythic or literal faith for the school age. So you have to remember about this mythic. This may come out in the MCQ. Yeah? So at this stage, the children believe to develop a more concrete understanding of faith. That's why when they go to the school, they try to understand better during the kelas pendidikan Islam, for example, when the ustaz teach them sirah, fiqh. Okay? So they rely on the stories and the myths to make sense of their beliefs, the moral values, and they often understand together with the concept of reward and punishment. And that is for the school age. And for the adolescent, we call it at stage 3, synthetic conventional faith. So here, the adolescent starts to confirm, to accept the religious beliefs. So at this stage, they adopt whatever the society, the neighborhood, within the family. So here you start to notice that adolescents, especially the female, will wear hijab. The whole family members wear hijab, even their friends wear hijab. So they tend to adopt this. And they also start to have critical thinking and reflection on the personal beliefs. So whatever they believe, they hold to it. Okay. So here is the critical stage where those with parents who also neglect religion. The parents never asked to perform solar, for example, so they don't have the role model. So maybe their personal belief is more toward the modern, the Western thinking. So that's why in certain areas such as Kuala Lumpur in the urban, so you start to see the these adolescents, they don't have the strong religious understanding as well as it portrays to their behavior and their appearance. Stage 4 is the common stage where for the adults they have the individuative reflective phase. So here one must develop the ability to reflect critically on the values, beliefs and commitments as part of constructing the previous stage. So this is the stage where individuals start to re-examine the deeply held belief as in the adolescence, which it can be a painful process accompanied by the struggles. So you need to understand this stage when, especially when the patients uh, um, faced with the terminal illness, they face with the critical diagnosis, or maybe require major surgery. So their faith can be impeded, can be disturbed. Yeah. So there could be struggle, religious struggle, because through this painful experience, maybe the person starts to macam whether to adopt more self-worth, they want to appreciate themselves more, or they just being drowned in these painful experiences. They cannot accept the faith, they cannot accept this is part of Allah's decision and so on. So this is a very critical stage, yeah, especially for us when we see patients later on in the ward. And second, one must struggle with the developing self-identity and self-worth, capable of independent judgment in relation to individuals, institutions, and worldview. So regardless of the societal worldview, the family's worldview, uh, it can, the person who is in struggle may close their values, their visions to the outside world, because of their struggle. So questions involved in this stage 4, like who am I, who am I apart from my blah blah blah. It involves a deep reflection of who we are, okay, in order to have the sense of self-worth. Okay. And stage 5 is for the conjunctive phase for the mere adulthood and beyond. This stage involves increased appreciation of the diversity of human experiences. So people tend to integrate elements from various resources for their own faith. So here, whatever that they appreciate, maybe in terms of education, not just religion, in terms of family, they recognize it and they hold as a part of their spiritual well-being. Yeah. And lastly, for the stage 6 is we call it as universalizing faith, which is rare and exemplary. And this is the highest stage where the individual transcends specific religion and cultural boundaries. So this one involves those in high positions such as maybe Allah Yarham Ni Aziz, uh, So they develop a universal perspective emphasizing on the love, on the justice, on the compassion. So regardless of religion, they believe in the ihsan, showing compassion to the other religious people. And this stage is rare and often associated with spiritual leaders and exemplars. So now we move on from the Islamic perspective, which is very important. It may come out in your exam. Yeah? So from the Islamic perspective, the study of human in relation to their action, their behavior, their thinking, their emotions, uh, should derive from the sources of Islamic thought. Okay? So in Islam, our Islam self, our iman, our belief in God, our awareness of the prophetic teaching is combined with the ideal self. So about who you should be, about your self-worth, about your ambition, about your striving, what you want to be, and the current or the real self, which belongs to the tendency, the positive or self-regard. So this integration is important in order to develop Islamic personality. Okay, so we cannot ignore our iman and also the sunnah. So in Islam self, the belief is God is related to the belief of Muslim, awareness of the teaching, prophetic teaching associated with the practice. So Rogers identified the real self as integration of the others is initiated by the actualizing your tendency, follow organismic value, the needs, positive regard. So this is how individual appreciate themselves, and it can be part of the inner personality, the way we are happy with who we are. And for the ideal self, it is described as a person's goals or ideals. So it is dynamic ambition and goals. So for the ideal self, every individual or every Muslim needs to have a determination for who they want to be, what is their aims in this life and in the afterlife. Okay? So integrated Islamic personality is comprised of four constructs. Okay, and according to Syed Nusi, so Syed Nusi, let me introduce him first. He is a well-known religious scholar. He is a great Muslim intellectual from Turkey. So, Syed Nusi advocated for a modern understanding of Islam and sought to reconcile traditional Islamic teaching with the modern science and philosophy. So, during the glory time or in the Turkey, people starts to become more secular as compared to following the religious teaching in Turkey. That's why if you go to Turkey right now, you see rarely that the people wear hijab or macam follow Islam's appropriately because they are more too secular and become westernized. So according to Syed Nursi, this advancement of science and technology has changed the way people live. Okay, the way people live, not like during the prophet time, and it can disturb the substance of faith. So faith become dealing, become far from the norms and rituals. So people tend to ignore the religious space. Yeah. So as from human self from the modern thought of Sanusi to combat materialism, secularism, and other similar approach. That's why Sanusi come up with the Islamic perspective on the development of faith. So, for Sanusi, the modernization can cause anxiety, juvenile delinquency, violence, mental illness, conflict. So, this is all because of the modernization and scientific growth and technology. And this social change has eliminates the human's values and make people become more anxious. Mutism is more anxious. So because they are fear of the not having the technology, the materials, not having the money to buy things. Yeah? So this is the danger of the materialism. So according to Nusi, individuals like our people in this modern world, we are tend to focus on the materialistic minds, the money, the income, handphone, car, houses. So it makes people with materialistic minds are unhappy, dissatisfied, not focused on what they have, rather that they always see the others. They always compare themselves with the others for what the other people have but they don't have. So most often they do not think about the positive aspects of lives, so which made that their life become gloomy. At the same time, it left the people with the drastic change in the social, physical, intellectual, and spiritual become inactive. So most of the time, we just focus. People tend to focus on the worry about these material things, about the job, about the income, about their loans, and so on. So Syed Nursi said that through his work called as Risala in Nur. So to him, only belief is the super source to save the people from astray and leads them towards prosperity, happiness, and well-being that make a person both in the life's paradise. So, in order to make people come back to the true meaning of life is to remind that this world is temporary and our afterlife in the paradise is the permanent. So here Syed Nursi asks for a balance. The person need to have a balanced approach to deal with the basic of the components and also with the spiritual. So in order to develop faith, so this is very important for you guys. This may come out in the exam, yeah? Okay. So in order to develop faith, as according to Syed Nursi, the people need to, first regarding the knowledge and learning, people need to engage in the reading from the stories of the companion. So this allow to gain insight into the core principal values. And then another way to develop faith to knowledge and learning is to seek guidance, seek mentor from the Muslim scholars. Because this intellectual engagement enhance our ability to interpret and apply religious teachings. And lastly, in order to enhance knowledge, we need to participate in educational programs, seminar, discussion, yeah? Because according to Nusi, communal learning together and having intellectual exchange between each other is very important in the development of faith. So this is the hierarchy of faith: Islam, Iman, Taqwa, and Ihsan. So the other ways to develop faith is to reflection, contemplation, to prayer and worship, especially for the communion, not just to pray alone, but people need to perform prayer in communion, means in jama'ah, go to the mosque, and living in accordance with religious practice. So both for the personal and as well interact with the others to strengthen the faith. Yeah? We are not living alone, so that faith cannot just develop through alone. Yeah? So there is no way that you can develop faith while you are reading alone. Yeah? Number 5 is on the community engagement. So we need to participate in religious communities. That's why in Islam, Rasulullah teach us to visit the sick people, because through this we can continue with our community engagement with the other people who are sick, and gain barakah. And number 6, resilience and patience. Number 7, nature and contemplation of the creation. We need to spend time with appreciating the God's creation out there, with our nature, with the clouds, okay, rains, and so on. avoid doubt and negative influences. That's why we need to guard ourselves from this negative influence that may weaken our faith, be it our friends, be it from the social media or from the movie. And we need to surround oneself with positive influence, seek knowledge, address the doubts and so on. So we need to continue being humble and express gratitude to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. We can also express gratitude to the other people by saying thank you, because with expressing gratitude, it develops a humble heart, it approach the faith, and constant renewal and reflection. So in spiritual, Lucy said that we need to always reflect back and improve in order to assess and renew our commitment to the faith. So this is a revision. At which stage does an individual critically examine and differentiate their own faith from external influences? So the answer is individuative reflective faith. So this is the summary of the two lectures. So in part 1, where you learn about the Colbert theory and Gilligan theory. So for the Colbert, it's rooted on the male-centric perspective in the theoretical development, whereas Gilligan focused in the ethics of care, which focus more to the profession of caring, especially for women. So follow on the spiritual development, he shed light on the involvement of nature of faith, uh, and the significance of personal meaning making according to the stages. So follow works encourage a broader appreciation of dynamic and subjective aspects of the growth. And for lastly, for Sanusi, he adds a cultural specific dimension or the social change based on his study about the context of society in the Turkey for our understanding of the spiritual evolution. So here Nursi emphasis on the integration of scientific reasons and the faith along with his holistic approach to the knowledge underscore the interconnected of faith development with the intellectual, with the moral growth within the Islamic context. So that's all for these two lectures. So I hope you take note on my important points. There are several important points that I mentioned which may come out in the MCQ and also MEQ. So with that, all the best for your study and your exams. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.